Hello, everyone. My name is Leah De La Paz. I am student manager and DJ here at KUCR 88.3 FM, Riverside, California. Today, I am joined by the amazing jazz pianist and composer based in Long Beach, Josh Nelson. Hi, Josh.
Hello, Leah.
How
Thanks
are
for having
you?
me.
Oh, of course, of course. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm from Long Beach originally, but I live in Los Feliz now in East Hollywood, LA.
Oh,
So that's where
nice.
I'm currently. Yeah.
Nice. Made the big move.
Yeah. I lived in Mid-City LA for many years, and then we just moved to a neighborhood called Franklin Hills, which is really beautiful, historic kind of neighborhood right near Silver Lake.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
nice. Cool. Yeah, I know Silver Lake and those parts of LA are very nice and have some very artistic people out there. So I'm sure it feels
Yes.
kind of nice to be in a creative space as well, huh?
Exactly. Yep.
Nice. Cool. Um, I had the pleasure of meeting you back last quarter when you did a masterclass for my jazz theory course here at UCR, taught by Professor Joshua Welch. And then soon after that, you played along with the jazz ensemble and combo,
Right.
highlighting, various musics from your discography. How
Hmm.
was that for you? How was playing along with a student ensemble?
Oh, fantastic. They did a great job. I couldn't have been more pleased. Yeah, it was a great uh, day of master classes, rehearsals, and the following week we did the concerts. Yeah, they put a lot of time into all my music, and I'm always flattered when people do that. Josh Welch has been a friend for many years, and I think he's doing a fantastic job running that program from what I can see. And yeah, it was super inspiring, and I got a good dose of my own music that day.
Yeah. Well, it was amazing. I was
Thank you.
sitting in the audience and I was starstruck. I was like, this is truly incredible.
Oh,
So yeah.
thanks.
But yeah, so tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your background in jazz, how it all started, and
Yeah.
kind of your eureka moment in that.
Well, I'm from Long Beach, like I said. Kind of grew up in the 80s and 90s around Southern California. Part of a entertainment family. My father was a Walt Disney Imagineer, so he routinely took us to Disneyland, and I really got turned on to, you know, just arts in general, probably through the Disney lens, watching the films, totally into the cartoons, totally into the amusement park culture. My brother and sister and I were pretty lucky to witness, and that era of Disney too, when that was, the company was growing, but not obviously as big as it is today.
Mm.
So it was kind of cool to see it when it was still like, a smaller family company. Um, and just witness the magic behind the scenes with my dad working on attractions. Really, really fun. And then I got involved in musical theater in the San Fernando Valley. So my parents were part of this theater company, and that was super cool for a young person to just be in some shows. I was acting, I was dancing, and then
Oh,
I
wow.
started playing piano for some of the shows, and that really piqued my interest. And then I was started playing trumpet, and I played trumpet from about age 11 through into my early 20s. I actually was a pretty serious trumpet player. I kind of wanted to go into that field of music, but piano took over when I got to Cal State Long Beach, and I had a really great private teacher, and I had to kind of dedicate my time to the piano and put the trumpet away, at least professionally. I just I couldn't devote the required practice time for it and stuff. So
Hmm.
I just started playing it again recently because I missed
Oh,
it.
wow.
So I'm
There you
hoping to
go.
just have it back in my life. I'm not looking to get gigs or anything. Just I've recorded a little bit on my records. You can hear some horn parts in the back. That's me. Easy
Mm.
kind of trumpet parts. Um, yeah, and then I graduated from Cal State Long Beach in the early 2000s, and just kind of got on the scene in Los Angeles, playing music, playing a lot of club dates, jazz clubs, and started working with some vocalists. And one of the big vocalists in the beginning that I worked with, uh, just not quite a household name, but she's definitely getting recognition. Her name is Sarah Gazarek, and she's we did a lot of records, toured quite a bit with her. She was kind of my first big touring act. She was developing her career as I was kind of starting to arrange for her and do a lot of music directing and piano playing for her. And then while I was on the road with her, I got called to play with Natalie Cole,
Oh,
who's
wow.
very famous, vocalist who's been gone for some time now. She passed away in 2015. Daughter of Nat King Cole, kind of royalty, LA royalty. And I played for her for over 6 years. I was her last pianist. There was a couple guys that kind of came in near the end, but I got to play some of her final shows. And I went all over the world with her and got lots of experience, and it's a total dream gig. I'll never probably be able to duplicate anything quite like playing with Natalie. That
Oh,
was pretty
wow.
special. Yeah, I learned a lot about who I am as a player, where my strengths are, where my weaknesses are, stuff to work on. And she just gave me all kinds of great opportunities, and we played at some incredible places, in Europe and Australia. And God, we went everywhere. It was a really, really fun time. And that was 2008 through 2015, basically. During that time, I started making records of my own, more or less, in that time period. And I developed this multimedia show called The Discovery Project, which was born at a club here in LA called Blue Whale, which is since closed, but reopening soon, actually. A very cool club that we've all missed. It closed in the pandemic. And the Discovery Project was kind of like seeking to marry music, story, visualization, projections. It was kind of an interactive experience. Sometimes we would have a narrator who would kind of give background on the story. So one version of the show is about science fiction. One is about planet Mars. One's about history, people, places, and events from LA's history. And then I did a final show before the pandemic, and that was about kind of metaphysical, spiritual, celestial. I went a little out there on that one. And with Blue Whale reopening soon, I'm thinking about kind of starting a new version of the show and putting another theme topic together. And it's always fun for me to work with this great visual artist named Travis Flournoy, who helped build the visual component of the show. Of course, have great musicians that help to play the music and
Yeah.
interpret that. So, yeah, and we toured that around a bit, mostly around California, but there were some East Coast dates, and yeah, now I teach at USC. I've been there 4 years, adjunct faculty, teaching jazz piano. I was before that I was at Cal State Northridge for some time, and then SoCa University in Aliso Viejo for a little while. I teach privately also, and yeah, I've been getting more into the film and TV recording scene, which is really fun for me. There's still some session work in LA for that, though a lot of it is gone from what it used to be now. But I've gotten to plan a couple Disney things. I have 3 or 4 Disney things recently, which was really, really fun for me. Some films and some attractions for the parks.
Nice.
And yeah, some TV work. Played in a cool Apple TV show called Palm Royale, which did pretty good. And that was fun for me because it was throwback kind of old school jazz kind of feel. So yeah, just, just a variety of things to be a working musician these days. And yeah, I'm just loving life, and I'm a proud Angelino. I love
Nice.
telling the stories of this city through music and discovering new ones that I don't know about. And was just hiking in Griffith Park, our big park, this morning. It's my favorite
Oh,
place to kind of get out of the city and for a second and just get into nature and yeah, experience
nice.
out the best LA can offer. So
Cool.
it's a little bit
Yeah.
about me. Hope that wasn't too much.
No, perfect. The more the merrier. Um, I know you spoke a lot about LA, and I'll get into that later because I have a
Yeah.
question on that. But So I was looking at your discography and I noticed that your earliest album, at least on streaming platforms, was from 2007. But I know that you have a 1998 album, correct? First Stories?
Oh, been doing some digging.
I had to, I had to.
That one, very good, Leah. That one it never really came out. It was like I was like about 18 or 19 when I did that.
Oh, wow.
And we made CDs back then, right?
Mm,
Lots of thousand CDs or whatever. But that one never really was officially. I don't even think it made it onto a lot of streaming services. It wasn't the best example of my playing. I was still learning how to
mm.
play the piano. So there's another one that came after that, actually in 2004, called Anticipation,
Oh.
and that one is a better example, I think, of where my playing. I felt better about sharing that and some new compositions and arranging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about First Stories and then that 2004 album. What was it like kind of making this debut album? I mean, it's your first solo album, releasing it and everything. Tell me about the emotions and the arrangements and everything in
Yeah.
between.
Uh-huh. First Stories came about from playing with these great young musicians. We were all young, but in the Southern California Honor Band, SCSBOA. I think it's still going on, and the Grammy Band too. So the Grammy organization would
Mm.
have these youth bands that were like honor bands, and I met so many great musicians, many of which whom I'm still friends with today. And we kind of just formed a little group and begged our folks to give us some money to record. And we went into a fun studio, the Bakery in Burbank, which is, I think it's gone now, and just decided to record. And we had played around a lot. At the time, Borders Books and Music were really big, like Barnes and Noble, right? Borders
Mm.
was a big bookstore. And they would always have jazz in their coffee shops. So I toured all around Borders, around California, up and down the West Coast. Actually, that was
Oh, wow.
my first tour that I organized for myself and the band. So we got to workshop the music and, bonded on the road and had a really good time. And those some good times there in the late 90s, 99. And yeah, so, and then after that, Anticipation, I had started playing with Sarah Gazarek and I was starting to get more serious about composition and what I wanted to say on albums and what kind of statement I wanted to make. And that one I spent more time kind of getting really specific with the compositions and arrangements and rehearsing those really well, and kind of had a working band. A lot of students who went to USC. Sarah Gazarek went there, and so I started playing with a lot of USC students, even though I didn't go there, but now I teach there. Comes full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was late 90s into kind of the mid 2000s. And then Sarah got a record deal with a now defunct label called Native Language. They were in South Orange County, and they offered me a one album deal. So I made a
Mm.
record called Let It Go, and I think that's the one you're referring to, from 2007.
Yes.
And that was a big album for me because I had a label that was willing to spend money
Mm.
and get me the musicians that I wanted on it, and I put all my compositional efforts into that, and that was a big debut for me. And yeah, so that's kind of the first origins
Oh.
back then when I was starting to record a
Yeah.
lot. And Sarah was making records, so I was doing a lot of recording and arranging for her and other people around LA that were making jazz records. I'm still doing a lot of that, but
Hmm.
independent jazz records are hard to
Mm.
sell these days, so less people I think are making them overall.
Oh, wow.
Still a labor of love, and it's still happening once in a while for sure. Maybe more singers doing that
Mm.
these days, but yeah, it's just getting trickier with the economy of the whole thing.
Mm.
So, but I am going back into the studio to work on a new studio record. It's been too long since
Oh.
I've done that. My last like at least 4 or 5 records have been live albums.
Mm.
So I think I passed around album 11 recently of my own.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it's time to go back and do a proper studio record. So just to keep the narrative going. So
Nice.
this summer.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out. Everyone should here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Speaking of all of your albums, I noticed that there's this reoccurring theme of Los Angeles,
Hmm.
which I had mentioned I'd come back to this earlier.
Yeah.
Um, but your albums like Discovery, The Sky Remains, and West Coast Echoes, all of those and many more have little tidbits of LA,
Yeah.
whether the title says, Griffith Park Promenade or, much more beyond that. So, first of all, from one LA native to another, it is incredibly refreshing to see, LA get that acknowledgement and the homage to it in these projects. But I'm very curious as to how you were able to kind of differentiate the sounds and the subgenres within at least those three albums,
Mm.
while still having this like overarching theme of LA.
Hmm. That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, the most recent one, which was a collaboration with my friend Kevin van den Elzen, who's a great drummer from the Netherlands. He's actually Dutch. We were playing together some years ago, and he saw some kind of. I have a lot of LA memorabilia
Mm.
just behind me here, just old Disneyland posters and LA posters and stuff. The Griffith Observatory. I'm kind of obsessed with LA as a cultural destination and iconography and the fonts and the different architecture from over the years.
Hmm.
Um, and the that latest record we did called West Coast Jazz Echoes was specifically looking at material that was either directly about Los Angeles or was written by composers from back in the golden era of kind of jazz in LA. And jazz is still thriving here, but back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, it was really bumping. There were a lot of clubs. Billie Holiday played here. Charles
Mm.
Mingus lived here. All the greats would come through.
Yeah.
Charlie Parker. It was much more of a destination, especially central Los Angeles,
Mm.
central LA around Leimert Park and that area. There was the Dunbar Hotel was a famous destination for a lot of jazz musicians, black artists, and it was really a center for a long time. So we tried to pick songs that kind of pointed at that
Mm.
era of LA's jazz lore and history. Um, and that project is ongoing. We have a big band, 17-piece ensemble that also draws from that same repertoire,
Mm.
and then the small group stuff as well. So it's super fun for us. Uh, Hopefully, have some more dates coming up this year for that. But I love that band. It's so great, yeah. And we have a lot of studio veterans that used to record with some of the old guys that are still with us,
Oh,
who
wow.
play in those bands. So it's keeping the history kind of in the dialogue while we
Yeah.
continue to make new music. We're keeping the past and the tethered to the present and the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
That's the idea with it. And then The Sky Remains was one of my favorite records I've done from 2017. And I just was continuing to discover so much about LA. It's people, places, events. And I really learned a lot from this podcast that I was listening to, and I still listen to it. It's called The Hidden History of Los Angeles.
Mm.
And I reached out to the guy who does it, and it's his name's Robert Peterson, and we struck up a friendship. And he actually is a musician himself, a jazz bass player, and he knows a lot
Oh.
of people I know.
Mm.
And I said, I'm writing this content for this new show about LA's history, and I'd love to bring you in somehow. If we could have maybe you could narrate during the show, maybe you could present these topics, and we could loop in your knowledge of history and kind of make it a little educational, so they're not just hearing music and they're
Mm.
not just seeing images of LA's past or present or future, but it's also everyone's learning something a little bit about Los Angeles that you didn't know before.
Mm.
And I think the first story that came from that I was like, wow, I think I could make a whole record with something like this, was the story of Griffith Park, and
Mm.
how this guy Griffiths, that was his name. He was this rich uh, oil baron or oil tycoon guy. I think he made his money in oil, late 1800s, and he got involved with philanthropy, but he was a bad drunk, and he shot his wife in the face one night in a fit of rage when he was drunk. And I was like, what can I do with this? So I got with my friend Kathleen Grace, great songwriter, and we decided we could talk about the perspective of her name was Tina, and what maybe there was a romantic backstory that we didn't know about with them, instead of the violence that maybe came from that episode, and looking at a different piece of her history. So from there, I kind of started writing more themes about transportation in Los Angeles, amusement park culture in the Southland, by looking at an old defunct amusement park called Pacific Ocean Park, which has been gone for 60, 50 years or something like that. But my parents went there when they were kids. It was basically in Santa Monica. It was off the pier. And it was like a total death trap, right? Rides that probably shouldn't have been operating at the time. But and then if you listen to that track, Pacific Ocean Park, I recorded a little bit of the merry-go-round at Griffith Park. And I mix it in kind of with with what we're playing. And we're playing that same song that the merry-go-round is playing in a different key. So it's kind of this surreal, almost Twilight Zone, looking back, going back into the past, but you're doing something in the present. And that carousel was actually where Walt Disney got the idea for Disneyland. He would take his little kids to that carousel in Griffith Park, and he said, I think I could build a park, for people to enjoy themselves. And so it's just tying in all these themes and my history with Disney, my dad being an Imagineer, like I mentioned. It was kind of easy. I felt like the whole album just kind of wrote itself, I didn't really have to try very hard, and using my very talented friends in the studio to help me create the sounds, and the wonderful guitarist Anthony Wilson, who helped produce it, and he played on it. I really had something special. And we performed it live with visuals, with my friend Travis I mentioned doing all the visuals. And we had just so much fun doing that show. Stuff about architecture, stuff about the Travel Town Train Museum that I grew up going to. Just super fun. Yeah. And some, genre-wise, like you mentioned, it was straight ahead jazz, but it's also, there's that for sure. But some of the songs I wrote with Kathleen are more singer-songwriter. They're crossover, it's still jazzy, but it definitely has some pop elements. We cover an Elliott Smith tune, the great L.A. Songwriter Elliott Smith, who met with a tragic end. One of his beautiful songs called Pizzala, that I just wanted to, a little tip of the hat to somebody who's inspired me in my music and with his writing. So, yeah, and Discoveries was also kind of like that earlier record. That was more like kind of based on Griffith Park is in there for sure, but I was really getting into H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, early science fiction writers that wrote famous books like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Journey to the Center of the Earth, and kind of just like fantasy. Like if you look at the cover, it's like the dirigible, this airship, and the Hindenburg disaster. Just kind of fascinated with like man's achievements, humanity's achievements, men and women, and their failures, and learning from our mistakes, and just how could I write music that reflects some of that in as best I can. There's standalone tunes, right? They should be able to be compositions that you can pull out and play on a gig, but as a whole story, they work together. And that's something I feel like is kind of getting lost with album making, because now people can just listen to random tracks. I mean, they've been doing that for a while, but the narrative of track 1 into 2, 3, and how it flows is still interesting to me, and I really like that shape that you can give a story. It feels like a story. It feels like a book, when you're listening to a record. So I really still kind of prefer to listen to records from beginning to end, or for vinyl, just side A and then side B, and that's get the whole picture as the producer or the composer intended. And then the Live at Sam First record was also, we called it LA Stories. A little less on the nose about specific LA themes, but there's definitely some LA themes in there. I wrote a piece called Red Car Reminiscing, and that's about the old red car trolleys that used to go all over LA
Mm-hmm.
until the late 50s, of course, way before my time, but still like kind of just that wonderment about,
Mm-hmm.
things that used to be, and how can we reflect on them now, or
Mm-hmm.
still keep them in our zeitgeist, still keep them in our dialogue.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, they're just all fun projects. But really, when it comes down to it, it's about writing a good song and then having great musicians help interpret your music. And that's what I've
Yeah.
been so fortunate. Living in LA, we have the best musicians in the world
Yeah.
in Southern California. Not just LA, San
Yeah.
Francisco, San
Mm-hmm.
Diego. There's great musicians all over the state.
Yeah.
So I draw upon their talent for sure to help support my ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really love how you're pulling in, like you said, the wonder of LA and the
Yeah.
past, the present and the future, and
Mm,
tying that into the music, bringing the history. I mean, I remember when you did the ensemble here with the UCR Jazz Ensemble,
yeah.
seeing the projections in the background,
Yeah.
and it really tied in so perfectly with the music. I mean, it flowed like a story, like you're reading a book, kind of like what you said. So it is quite fascinating, and
Thank you.
I know I enjoyed the visuals and everything.
Well,
So
thanks, Leah.
yeah.
Yeah, we didn't do it the full Discovery Project version, because
Mm,
usually we have our guy who did that. His name's Travis. He's there live, and the
mm-hmm.
idea is that what you saw, that was a fixed length video that
Right.
I
Yeah.
would tour with,
Mm-hmm.
and I could time it out a little better with the what you heard. It was tricky to kind of time it with all that stuff. We didn't really have enough time to finesse it.
Mm-hmm.
But what he does, he has this VJ board, video kind of manipulation, so
Mm.
he's an improvising member of the group, basically. So there's some things that are the same every time. When we play a melody, he shows this image of this person or this bridge
Mm.
or Griffith Park, and then as we improvise, he starts to twist and turn the video, and use graphic visual elements to kind of have some fun with it. So
Mm.
it's interactive from his perspective too.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it came across still. Yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of a general idea.
Yeah,
That
it
yeah,
was pretty on time. I
cool.
remember the crescendo during the dirigibles, I think, and or it was like when the Hindenburg accident had
Yeah,
happened, and I was like, oh my God, like it, it worked so well. Like you guys kind of
yeah,
had it
that
on
one
the
worked
nose.
out.
Yeah, that was quite great, I think.
Yeah, that one's good because everything is kind of set lengthwise with the solos and how long it is. So
Oh, yeah.
if we
Okay.
can do that, if I'm just running a video from the computer, it'll work out. It's
Mm,
when we stretch solos that's when something
yeah.
happens, and it ends too early. So that's where I need a live video guy to
Yeah.
actually do it
Yeah.
live with us. Yep.
Well, hopefully, whenever tour and continue to do that, I hope
Hmm.
that you can continue to use that visual aspect because it really adds to the emotion that the audience feels. It was
Thank you.
quite great.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I feel that same way
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a big fan of film. I love a lot of classic film,
Mm-hmm.
Alfred Hitchcock, Stanley Kubrick,
Mm-hmm.
Kurosawa, all
Mm-hmm.
the greats, Billy Wilder, maybe some names you and your audience know. But if you don't, you can check some of them out.
Uh-huh.
John Ford, Howard Hawks, all the old directors. I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of obsessed with that old Hollywood look and those
Yeah.
classic movies from the 20s, 30s, 40s,
Yeah.
Casablanca and all those
Mm.
famous movies.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a romanticism about that era of Hollywood filmmaking.
Yeah.
And if there's ever a chance to throw in something, I will. We run into copyright issues sometimes. So a lot of that
Mm.
footage that you see is either something we shot live or it's from archive.org, which is the
Oh.
Library of Congress in Washington. It's their online archive
Oh.
of all free usage material. So it's
Nice.
all stuff that's like public domain or it's fallen out of copyright.
Mm-hmm.
It's an incredible resource for anyone who wants to experience this or experiment with it.
Mm.
Archive.org is incredible, and it's this giant repository of
Mm.
still images, visuals, audio recordings from United States history, not just LA history. So
Nice.
it's pretty deep.
Yeah.
Overwhelming, really. So we pulled a lot of stuff from there in the beginning
Mm.
to give
Mm.
the story, without getting in trouble from any,
Right, as
you
I
know.
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that high profile with it. We did it at a couple big venues, and I was like, I hope no one checks on us on this.
Yeah.
I
Well,
dodged a bullet so far.
yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
Um, so moving away from Los Angeles,
Yeah.
a rather interesting theme that you have is when you decide to fly up into space and into Mars with your 2015 album, which was Exploring Mars. What inspired
Yes.
you with that album and with the theme overall, and how did the arrangements kind of come about as well with that theme?
Yeah. So I had been following, I'm a fan of just space adventures and travel in general.
Mm.
And I've been totally into the whole Artemis 2
Oh my
mission that just
gosh.
happened. That was
Mm.
just absolutely incredible. Did you
Yeah.
watch all that?
Oh my goodness, brought me to
So cool,
tears.
right?
Yeah.
That we've been able, we get to, as our generation, we get to see that it
Yeah.
happen, and it hasn't happened since the early 70s, is
Mm-hmm.
pretty special.
Yeah.
With everything going on in the world, it was just a moment of breath. You're just like,
Yes.
wow, we
Yeah.
can all just enjoy this collective humanity,
Yeah.
this good feeling for humanity right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I felt when I was starting to learn about the Mars missions, and they started in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
NASA JPL was sending rovers up to the planet, Sojourner, Opportunity, Spirit.
Mm.
But then in 2012, they did a really bold landing with the Curiosity rover. It was
Mm.
summer, I remember, and they had this incredible sky crane that like dropped the rover with these lines to tether down, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just super risky. They didn't know if it was going to survive the descent,
Mm-hmm.
and it did, and it's still going. It's still taking
Yeah.
photos
Mm-hmm.
and imagery, and I just was like, this is amazing. I want to write a whole suite of music, and I'll make songs for each rover.
Oh wow.
And so I started with that. So the rover
Mm-hmm.
songs came first, and those were just fun. I just had my video, Travis, same video guy.
Mm-hmm.
He just sent me a bunch of clips of
Mm.
what those rovers were doing, and maybe some of the specs on each of them, like how many miles they had traveled, what they could do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Opportunity was a rover that was super active and just was like frantic. And I wrote this kind of frantic, almost like samba, Brazilian samba that just kind of just has all this energy. So I just tried to reflect what I thought the rovers were doing in some kind of personified way into the compositions.
Mm.
Curiosity was more of a triumphant like um, uh, anthem
Mm.
that came to me. Sojourner was a little bit more mysterious because it was an early rover, and maybe they were uncertain if anything would go right with the mission. So there's a lot of mystery in that composition,
Mm.
and also it just feels like a brave song to me. The Spirit rover was. The Spirit did not last as long as Opportunity. They both landed at the same time on
Mm.
different parts of Mars,
Mm-hmm.
and Spirit got covered with Martian dust early on in its solar
Oh.
cells, so it couldn't survive as long. And I just felt so sorry, so I wrote this sad little
Oh.
kind of 5/4 time,
Mm.
broken waltz, broken down rover
Mm.
song, that became a little bit of a sad moment, or a bittersweet moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I kind of started to look to other sources, and I was like, well, one of my favorite musical moments about Mars is from a very famous English composer named Gustav Holst, who wrote a whole suite of music called The Planets, and
Mm.
he wrote that in the early 1900s. And his first movement's called Mars, the Bringer of War. And I decided to take his score and record it for like 6 different piano parts, overdubbing myself. So not
Mm.
really performable later, but it was fun for me to do that and kind of like also look at how somebody else, viewed Mars, or through their musical lens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's some improvisatory pieces scattered throughout that kind of feature Larry Kuntz on guitar, John DeVersa on the electric valve instrument, that are a little bit more just little tidbits of like kind of connective tissue in the record
Mm.
that let them just kind of explore. And what I did is I had them look at a visual of what I was thinking about, and their locations on Mars.
Mm.
One is called Solus Lacus, which is the eye of Mars. So John DeVerson was looking at kind of imagery from that while he's improvising,
Oh,
giving them
wow.
some kind of visual stimulation so they can kind of respond to what they're seeing. And then I was like, I think I need like a really good love song or some kind of
Mm.
lyrical tune on this record. So I once again, well, this is before Sky Remains. So Kathleen, this is the first song I co-wrote with the wonderful vocalist and songwriter Kathleen Grace,
Mm.
and we came up with "How You Love Me on Mars," which is probably the one of my more well-known tunes now, and it's been arranged for some university choirs around the country,
Oh,
and made it into a couple little TV things and films here and there. So it's
nice.
yeah, that one I'm very proud of. It's it's it was a good one, and
Mm.
it helped kind of bring all that Martian reflection back to Earth a little bit too, and
Mm.
with a powerful kind of message of love, and it's a
Mm.
bit of a mystery, that song, because it's like if you listen to the lyrics, is someone living on Mars? Are they passed away? Are they dreaming about the lover that they had on Mars? So it's
Mm.
kind of open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a reading of one of my favorite books about Mars, very famous book by the science fiction writer Ray Bradbury, and it's The Martian Chronicles. And I found a passage that I really liked, and I said, I'm just going to read it while I'm playing the Spirit song.
Oh, wow.
And so there's narration, there's a little bit of electronic music, there's some instrumental music, there's some lyrics. It's a little bit of
Mm.
everything on that record. I was very pleased with how that turned out. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think, I mean, it's the same thing with the influence of LA throughout a lot of your work, is taking these moments in history and like the emotion behind that and turning emotion into, music and into a sonic emotion,
Right.
which is quite incredible. And I think you did an amazing job with that one as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. One of my favorite songs that you have composed and have arranged is the Atma Granada. And that one, I remember when you had performed it live and you told the story about it. And I was like, that is such a beautiful story. So I would love it if you could just retell the story over again,
Oh,
and
sure.
how that played into the piece, of course, as well.
Yeah. So I was a Natalie Cole trip. I remember I was in
Mm,
Europe, I think in Austria on a little plane connection, just going to a gig,
mm,
and I happened to be sitting next to a guy from LA of all places, and we just struck up a conversation, and he was like,
mm,
I'm Hare Krishna, and I'd love to explain just what that means. He wasn't, pushing any agenda. He was just wanted to share it with me, and I
mm,
was like, oh, absolutely. So he started talking about this principle of Atma Krandana, which is the crying of the soul, and he was trying to explain it as kind of the search for higher meaning in life,
mm,
embracing the the good times and the bad times,
mhm,
knowing that it's all part of the continuum of what we're about. Maybe never getting a final answer in
mm,
life.
mhm,
Maybe there is no beginning and there is no end. These
mm,
kind of beautiful kind of ideas, which Buddhism
mm,
and Christianity also share some of these principles.
mhm,
Of uh, seeking answers and reflecting on your purpose on the planet.
yeah,
And it just struck me as a really beautiful thing, and I just started writing, and it
mm,
came out as a kind of uh, it moves. It has this perpetual motion through it, but
mm,
it's also there's a melancholy to it a little bit. So
yeah,
that was the idea of trying to convey this sense of we're moving through our lives, but we're searching, and there's strength, and there's something comes crashing down kind of at the end,
mm,
and then it rebuilds itself, and
mhm,
we're really paralleling our journey as humans, maybe, as
yeah,
kind of like when we go through hard times, we have to pull ourselves out of them, and when we have good times, we can rejoice and stay in that space
mm,
for a little while, but there might be another difficult time lurking right around the corner.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, that's what kind of inspired it.
yeah. hearing it live was truly beautiful. I
Oh,
mean,
thanks.
it is a
They did a
quite
great job playing it.
yeah, I really have to give props to the entire ensemble and everyone who was a
Yes.
part of it because it was incredible. I mean, I remember sitting in my seat and being like, is anyone else feeling like this emotion as well? Like it was quite
Oh,
insane, quite
thanks,
fascinating.
Leah.
Yeah, of course. And I think the story behind um the meaning of the song and the story with the guy sitting next to you on the plane is it's very very I mean beautiful in a way that you wouldn't think, but you have transformed it into this beautiful piece, and it adds more to that emotion, and it makes you
Oh,
feel
thank
more
you.
sentient. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those just random occurrences talking with somebody,
Yeah.
and this is how music for me, this is I get inspired often not when I'm at the piano. When I'm
Mm.
out in Griffith Park hiking or talking to somebody
Mm.
or experiencing something in the city. There's so much inspiration that doesn't happen necessarily right when you're at the piano. It give you a seed of an idea that maybe you'll come back to years later,
Mhm.
that you didn't even, oh, I remember that. Oh, maybe I'll come up with a song about that. It's
Mhm.
it's programmatic, right? It's not, they're not just jazz songs for jazz sake.
Mhm.
They're more story driven, and
Yeah.
I really firmly believe for me it's a good vehicle to
Mhm.
express myself.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. It's hard for me to just write kind of random tunes. I'm always like, who am I going to write
Yeah.
about now, or what place, or what event?
Yeah, I feel the same. Sometimes when I'm like, playing my guitar, I'm trying to, jam or, just try to write an original. It's definitely easier stepping away from the instrument and experiencing life and letting things happen to you, and then
Totally.
once you're reflecting, those moments hit you and you're like, I can write about this piece, like I can write about this person, this place,
Yeah.
whatever. So it is, from a person who also kind of makes music every now and then. I think it's a completely valid outlook on that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, kind of wrapping up our conversation here, do you have any big advice for, young people like myself, who are, graduating and looking into jobs in the music industry? This is also kind of something I'm taking personally because I am a music major,
Yeah.
and I enjoy broadcast and I enjoy media. But what advice do you have for people looking into that, whether or not they want to be composers or producers and,
Right.
everything in between?
I mean, these days, with the economy of music being so kind of up in the air,
Mm-hmm.
if you can do anything in the music industry that gives you some joy, and if you can also be so fortunate as to make money with it, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
We all have to remind ourselves that the world has just, it's changed so much with how we take in, like, the arts, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And we're watching AI come into streaming platforms and
Yeah.
impersonate musicians, and it's getting scary. There's some weird
Yeah.
stuff happening now. Exciting stuff, right? Where AI might be helping out in medicine or, healthcare, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That could be beneficial. In music, it's a little nerve wracking and scary. So,
Yeah.
um, general advice for anyone, I mean, just have as many experiences as you can in
Mm-hmm.
music, and you know maybe a focus in music, or the entertainment industry, that you have a strength in, that you can kind of call your own. Like, I do this really well and I love it and I know a lot about it. But then also being open to doing different things in the industry. For
Mm-hmm.
musicians that I'm working with in universities or private lessons, I'm always encouraging them to be open to doing things like arranging music, composing music, copy work, even somewhat mundane things
Mm-hmm.
that would get you interested or put you in touch with other people that will take you into other realms of music you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Thinking long game a little bit, that relationships that you're making now might not gestate for many years.
Mm-hmm.
The composer of the Palm Royale Apple TV show I work with, his name's Jeff Toyne. I met him 25 years ago,
Oh
and
wow.
he came back to hire me for two shows like 20 20 years later after I met him.
Mm.
He remembered me. He was like, "Oh, you're a good player, and I wanted to do something with you." And I finally had a couple projects. So you just never know. So,
Mm.
the same tenets with any industry too. Be on time if you're in early. Be early.
Yeah.
Be prepared. Know a little bit about what you're about to do. Do your homework. Don't just show up and kind of, oh, I don't know. It's like the more you can be present and just do your job as best as you can, the more you're going to set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and there's so many opportunities in the music industry. It's management, artist management. Now there's a whole social media world.
Mm.
We need young minds to help us old folks. I'm getting older. Like help us, transition into the old model and keep that in mind, but also transition into newer models of releasing music and
Mm-hmm.
and social media content and generating that. So that's a whole industry unto itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, just being open and just trying to be the best person you could be at what you do as well, and being a pleasant person to be around. I feel like with so much negativity a lot in the world right now, we need smiles and positivity more than ever.
Yeah.
And it goes further than you think. Even just asking someone how they're doing and checking in,
Mm.
it really means a lot. I feel like that part of the human experience will never go away, no matter how much AI tries to duplicate it.
Yeah.
As long
Mm-hmm.
as humans roam the earth, we're always going to want to be connected with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the more positivity and love you can share, however that might manifest, it's
Yeah.
it's it's just you can't go wrong. That's my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. I remember when you did the master class, someone kind of asked you like a very similar question.
Yeah.
And something that I really enjoyed that you said about jazz in particular, about your own career and your own domain, kind of was AI can't replicate jazz. I mean, jazz is a human experience. It's a improvisational experience. And that kind of stuck with me. And I mean, although I don't play jazz myself, I
Yeah.
think still, I've tried to break that down and apply it into my life and, do things that AI can't replicate and, be the most creative I can be the most me I can be.
Right.
So it is very refreshing and reassuring to hear those words being repeated again. And I really do appreciate
Oh,
that.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
of
Well, I
course.
think you're great, and it seems like you have a lot of integrity in what you do, and I really appreciate you taking
Mm,
your time and the studio at UCR and everybody there to
yes.
to interview me and have me part of your world a little bit. It means a lot to me.
Absolutely. I really appreciate, again, you taking time out of your day and
Yeah, of
doing this.
course.
Right before we go, how can people find you? Do you have any big projects? I know you mentioned that, this summer you're trying to get back into the studio. So,
Yeah.
right before we head out, just leave some viewers with a little something.
Yeah, for sure. JoshNelsonMusic.com is my website. I try and keep it updated with dates, and I have a lot of charts. If any musicians out there, singers, there's stuff available. A lot of my music for purchase. It's very affordable, and there's a lot of stuff. Big band music, small group music, some of the songs I've written with Kathleen Grace and Sarah Gazarek.
Mm.
So I encourage people to check that out. My Instagram's Josh Nelson Music. Um, yeah, just all the things. Facebook, I'm up on all those platforms. For those who are in the general LA area, May 8th and 9th, I'm playing at the wonderful club Sam First. It's by LAX Airport. And that's going to be a tribute to Dave Brubeck, the great pianist. We're kind of replicating or recreating his
Mm.
famous Time Out record from 1959 with Take Five on it and all those famous songs. So
Mm.
it's 2 nights, May 8th and 9th, and I have a killer band playing with me. Um, and I think there's a date in September. I work with the San Bernardino Symphony, and they
Mm.
have some jazz programming. And I think we're going to do a date in early September. I've done about 4 or 5 years for them now. Tributes.
Mhm.
We've done tributes to Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn. We did a tribute to Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong,
Mm.
or Chet Baker, excuse me.
Mm.
So they like tributes, but I might do some of my own music this time. I'm not quite
Oh.
sure, or some of my favorite other music. So
Mhm.
San Bernardino Symphony has a good program, as does San Diego Symphony. I do stuff with them sometimes. So I just did something with them a couple weeks ago.
Mm.
So there's cool stuff happening all around. That involves me and doesn't involve me, but they they can you can find stuff on my website or just Google me and yeah. So yeah,
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Josh, once
you're
again
welcome, Leah.
for, taking the time here. And
My
yeah, we'll
pleasure.
make sure to spread the Josh Nelson word out there to all the listeners. Thank you so
thank
much.
thank you.
And this is KUCR 88.3 FM, Riverside, California.